Every one of us has been lost at some point. Some realize it early, others never do. Some lose themselves after success, and some on the way to it. There are those with wealth, recognition, and comfort, yet they've forgotten the simplest human things: love, family, kindness. And there are those who lose their direction chasing goals, believing achievement will fill the silence inside. We all lose ourselves somewhere. The question is, do we ever stop to find the way back? Most people never do, not because they don't want to, but because they don't notice it happening. Getting lost doesn't come as a single moment of crisis. It comes slowly, quietly, in the small compromises we make each day. One small surrender to comfort, one ignored promise to ourselves, one quiet voice inside that says, "I'll come back to it later." And so, day by day, we drift. We become strangers to our own purpose. Our lives begin to move, but without direction. The world applauds our progress, but inside, we know we've only been wandering in circles. It's a strange thing. A person can be surrounded by success and still feel empty. A woman can build a life admired by others and still feel she's forgotten who she is. A man can chase the next promotion, the next house, the next goal, and still wonder why peace never arrives. Because being lost isn't about where you are, it's about who you've become. You can live in the same home, speak the same words, see the same people, and yet something in you has quietly drifted away. We lose ourselves when we stop listening to that still, small voice inside, the one that once knew where we were going, the voice that reminded us of meaning, of decency, of why we began it all. But life grows louder, doesn't it? The noise of responsibility, expectation, and comparison drowns it out. Until one day, we wake up and realize we've been running, but we no longer remember toward what. There's a moment, sometimes sudden, sometimes slow, when the soul begins to whisper, "This isn't who I am." That whisper is not weakness, it's the beginning of truth. Because finding yourself again doesn't begin with answers, it begins with honesty. To find yourself, you must first admit that you're lost. To find direction, you must first stop running in the wrong one. To hear the inner voice again, you must first grow quiet. No one is too far gone. No life is too tangled to be untied. No path is so broken, it cannot be rebuilt. Because being lost is not the end of the road. It's the invitation to return to yourself. It's the soul's reminder that success without self is emptiness, and that the real journey in life is not outward, but inward. The world may teach you how to build a career, how to earn a living, how to climb higher, but only you can learn how to return home to your own heart. And when you do, when you find that still point of peace within you, life begins to realign around it. For what good is it to conquer the world if you lose yourself in the process? And what miracle it is to lose yourself and then find your way back stronger than before. How people unknowingly drift away from themselves. No one wakes up one morning and says, "Today, I will lose myself." It happens gradually, quietly, beneath the surface of ordinary life. It begins the moment we trade authenticity for acceptance, purpose for comfort, and meaning for movement. When we are young, our hearts are clear. We know what excites us, what feels right, what we wish to become. But as the years pass, the world begins to shape us. We learn what is practical, what is normal, what is expected, and so we adjust, little by little, until one day, the reflection in the mirror no longer feels familiar. Men and women alike fall into this silent drift. The man who once dreamed of building something meaningful begins to work only for survival. The woman who once loved the beauty of small moments starts measuring her worth by achievements. The artist turns into a laborer, the dreamer into a worker, the believer into a skeptic, not because they wanted to change, but because they forgot to notice they were changing. We lose ourselves first in our thoughts, then in our habits. We begin saying yes when we mean no, pretending we're fine when we're not, choosing what's easy instead of what's true. And each time we do, we step a little further away from who we are. The world rewards those who adapt, but it forgets to warn that constant adaptation without reflection leads to emptiness. We're taught how to earn, but not how to feel, how to plan, but not how to pause, how to appear successful, but not how to be fulfilled. And so, we fill our days with tasks, our nights with noise, and our minds with distraction, all to avoid the quiet truth that something essential has gone missing. There's a kind of fatigue that no rest can cure. The exhaustion that comes from living against yourself. You can sleep for a week and still wake up tired if you're living someone else's idea of life. Because the soul does not rest in comfort, it rests in authenticity. We drift when we stop asking honest questions. When did I last feel alive? What did I once love that I no longer make time for? What kind of person did I want to be? And what happened to them? These questions sound simple, but they're sacred. They are the compass that points you back to yourself. For the moment you stop asking them, you begin to live by default, carried by the current of routine, pulled by the tides of other people's expectations. Being lost is not about failure, it's about forgetting. Forgetting that joy was once natural, that purpose was once clear, that life was once full of wonder. You can tell when a person is lost. Their eyes move, but their vision does not. Their days pass, but they do not progress. They confuse motion for meaning, effort for purpose, existence for life. But the beautiful thing about being lost is that it is not permanent. It is not a curse, it is a signal. The very discomfort you feel, the restlessness in your heart, is the map trying to guide you back. You drift when you stop being honest with yourself. You find your way back the moment you decide to be. How to break free from confusion, comparison, and doubt. When people lose their direction, it isn't because life becomes harder, it's because their minds become crowded. The path ahead is rarely blocked by obstacles, it's hidden beneath confusion, comparison, and doubt. These are the three fogs that blur the way home to yourself. The first is confusion. Confusion enters when we live too long without silence. The mind becomes a room filled with 100 voices, each one shouting what to do, where to go, who to be. Some of these voices belong to parents, some to teachers, some to the world, but few belong to us. When you feel lost, it is often not because you lack direction, it's because you're trying to follow too many at once. The cure for confusion is not more information, it is stillness. Sit quietly, turn down the noise, let your own thoughts rise from the depths. The answers you seek rarely come from the outside, they come from the calm within. Clarity is the reward of those who slow down long enough to listen. You cannot hear your own guidance while running at the world's pace. Step back. Ask yourself, what feels true, not what sounds right. Truth always speaks softly, confusion always shouts. The second is comparison. Comparison is the great thief of identity. It convinces us that someone else's path must be better than our own. It blinds us to what makes us unique by forcing us to measure our worth against the world's illusions. A man looks at another's success and calls himself behind. A woman sees another's beauty and forgets her own. Comparison turns gratitude into envy, and peace into striving. But the truth is, no one is ahead or behind. We are each on separate roads, walking toward different destinations. The oak tree does not compare itself to the rose. The river does not envy the mountain. Each fulfills its purpose in its own rhythm. When you stop competing with others, you finally begin to grow in the direction meant for you. The antidote to comparison is appreciation. Look at others not as rivals, but as reminders of possibility. Let their success inspire, not diminish you. You do not need to outrun anyone. You only need to outgrow yesterday's version of yourself. The third fog is doubt. Doubt whispers that you are not enough, not ready, not worthy, not capable. It keeps your potential locked behind invisible walls. But here's the truth. Doubt is a liar with a convincing tone. It borrows the voice of reason, but serves the cause of fear. No one escapes doubt, but the wise refuse to bow to it. They move anyway. They act before they feel certain. Because confidence does not come before action. It is built through it. Every time you take one honest step forward, doubt loses ground. You break free from confusion by choosing stillness. You break free from comparison by choosing gratitude. You break free from doubt by choosing movement. Each choice pulls you closer to yourself, the quiet, powerful self that has been there all along, waiting for the noise to fade. And once the fog lifts, you realize something profound. You were never as lost as you thought. You were simply covered by the dust of the world, and now you're remembering the way home. Steps to rediscover purpose and rebuild self-direction. Finding yourself again is not an accident. It is a deliberate return. It begins when you stop chasing the noise of the world and start listening for the quiet truth within. Purpose is never lost. It is only buried beneath layers of distraction, doubt, and duty. To uncover it, you must peel those layers away, patiently, one by one. The first step is to pause and reflect. You cannot rediscover direction while running at full speed. Stop, breathe, step away from the noise. Life cannot speak to a restless mind. Reflection is the act of sitting down with yourself, not to judge, but to understand. Ask the questions that matter. What have I been doing? Why am I doing it? Does it still matter to me? Most people are afraid of silence because it reveals truth, but that truth is the first light on the path home. The second step is to reconnect with your values. Purpose is not something you invent, it is something you remember. Beneath all roles and titles lies a set of principles that once made you feel alive. Kindness, creativity, integrity, growth, contribution. Write them down. Speak them aloud. When you know your values, decisions become clear. The lost wander because they've forgotten what truly matters to them. The found move forward because they act in alignment with it. The third step is to simplify. A cluttered life clouds the spirit. Too many commitments, too many goals, too many directions, and the self gets drowned in the noise of more. Simplify your surroundings, your schedule, and your desires until only what nourishes you remains. Purpose does not require excess, it requires focus. Sometimes rediscovering direction is not about adding more, but removing what distracts you from who you already are. The fourth step is to act with intention. Once clarity begins to form, do not wait for perfect certainty. Move. Begin with small, deliberate actions aligned with what you value. Every step, no matter how small, realigns your compass. Confidence grows not from thinking, but from doing. Each act of integrity, every time you follow through on what you believe, adds strength to your sense of self. The fifth step is to embrace patience. Rebuilding direction is not an overnight process. The world rewards speed, but the soul rewards sincerity. Be patient with yourself. Growth takes time. You cannot rush a sunrise, and you cannot rush rediscovery. But with each passing day of honesty, your path becomes clearer. The sixth step is to serve something greater than yourself. Purpose matures when it reaches beyond your own life. When you contribute, through kindness, through work, through example, you begin to feel connected again. Service gives meaning to struggle and direction to effort. It transforms me into we, and that shift restores balance to the soul. Rediscovery is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering the person you were before the world told you who to be. Each of these steps brings you closer to that original strength, the calm, clear sense of direction that once came naturally. And when you begin to live by it again, with reflection, integrity, simplicity, intention, patience, and purpose, the feeling of being lost fades away. Not because life becomes easier, but because you've remembered where you stand. The road home is never far. It begins with the first honest step back toward yourself. The mindset shift that transforms lost into found. There comes a moment, somewhere along the journey, when you realize that being lost was never the problem. It was the way you looked at it. You thought being lost meant failure, but it simply meant transition. You thought it meant weakness, but it meant awakening. Because to be lost is only to stand at the edge of growth, the point where the old you no longer fits, and the new you has not yet emerged. The shift begins when you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That one change turns confusion into clarity, pain into progress, and wandering into wisdom. Most people resist feeling lost because they mistake it for defeat, but being lost is often life's way of clearing the path ahead. The things you thought you needed begin to fall away. The people who no longer fit quietly drift from your orbit. The plans that once defined you start to dissolve, and in their place, something more authentic begins to take root. When you stop fighting the lostness, you begin to see it for what it really is, guidance in disguise. The lost traveler learns to rely not on the map, but on the stars. The same is true for the human spirit. When the familiar disappears, you are forced to look inward, and there, in that quiet, you find a compass that never fails. The real difference between the lost and the found is not location, it's perception. The lost see emptiness and panic. The found see possibility and prepare. The lost curse the detour. The found study the road. The lost dwell on what ended. The found begin again. To transform lost into found, you must surrender the illusion of control. You must learn to trust the process of becoming. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's uncertain, growth rarely announces itself with clarity. It arrives through confusion, doubt, and restlessness, the very emotions you've been taught to fear. The moment you stop fearing where you are, you begin to guide where you're going. Peace does not come from knowing every step ahead. It comes from knowing who you are as you take them. The found are not those who have reached their destination. They are those who have learned to walk with awareness. They move with patience, they think with depth, and they live with intention. Their confidence does not come from circumstances, but from self-command. To be found is not to have everything figured out. It is to have faith that every experience, even confusion, serves a purpose. The same moments that once made you feel lost become the very ones that lead you home. And once you see life this way, you are never truly lost again. Because even in uncertainty, you understand that every path, even the wrong one, teaches direction. Every setback refines vision. Every silence strengthens trust. The lost ask, when will this end? The found ask, what am I learning while I'm here? One question breeds anxiety, the other breeds wisdom. So, shift your thinking. Don't fear the feeling of being lost. Use it. Let it sharpen your awareness, simplify your desires, and remind you that your greatest guide has always been within you. So, to be lost is not a tragedy. It is an invitation. An invitation to stop running, to stop pretending, and to start remembering. Because you were never truly lost. You simply drifted away from what was real. The path back is not in the world. It is within. You find yourself not by searching for something new, but by returning to what you once knew. The values, the peace, the purpose that time and noise buried but never destroyed. When you slow down, when you listen, when you act with honesty, life begins to move in rhythm again. The fog clears, the weight lifts, and direction returns. You don't need a new road. You need a new awareness. And when that awareness awakens, everything begins to align. Not because the world changed, but because you did. So if you feel lost today, take heart. You're not broken, you're becoming. You're not wandering, you're being refined. Every lost soul is simply a soul on its way home, and home has been within you all along.